All right, all right, all right. Good morning, S. How are you?
Hi, good, thank you.
Ah,
Your background looks beautiful, so I'm sure you're doing well too.
so beautiful.
So
Yes, no, it's very,
beautiful.
very good. Morning, Ryan. How's it?
Morning. How's it going, guys?
All right, very good. I'm in a game reserve in Mpumalanga. I came here. Yeah, I came here with a group of people yesterday. We had such a packed day. I'll tell you about that in a moment. But yes, I mean, clearly I'm the most spoiled human being that's ever lived because I've only been back at work for 1 week and now I get to go away again. Ridiculous, right?
Wow.
Yeah, it's the right way to do it. I mean, I was just thinking this morning is Dr. Hanan is only back with us next week, I think. And I thought, what a nice way to spend the first half of January when everyone else is going and rushing.
Well, frankly, I mean, that's, if you want to be stupid, go ahead and be stupid. But I think I've cracked the code here.
Yeah.
100%. You're probably catching it at the best time when everybody's gone back. So no one's there now. And they're just like doing maintenance and things like that. I don't know.
No, so apparently, because I didn't go on the game drive last night, and then there's one right now that I'm also going to miss. But I'm not beating myself up because I'm one of those people who, when I go to the game reserve, I'm not like I don't need to be on every game drive.
Game drive,
especially the early morning ones. We've got to do the show anyway, but if they gave me the option and I didn't have to do the show, I'd still rather choose to sleep in. To me, sleeping in is the greatest thing available to all of us on any given day. It's the best thing ever.
It's a luxury in this business, that's for sure.
Oh my God. Listen, yesterday I had to wake up at 5:30 on a Sunday, which to me is like torture. So we could get here on time. And I'm back on Wednesday morning, Tuesday afternoon, and we went to this incredible thing yesterday. So part of it is I'm with a group of people from America who are busy touring, and there's some friends of ours here as well. But the main thrust of yesterday was to go and visit a little village called Jabuza, where they've just installed a tank with solar panels. The solar panels power the tank and the pump. They've drilled a borehole, and they've provided, for the first time ever in this village, clean running water that they can use to drink, to cook, to wash. They provide for 8,000 people in this village in Mpumalanga. It's sort of part of the Bushbuckridge municipality. And if you've ever been past Bushbuckridge, or if you know people in Bushbuckridge, it is not an easy place to live. There's no infrastructure. There's very little provision of services by the municipality. Basically, like so many other parts of this country, it's just a disaster, right?
Sure.
And
well, I mean, it is in the name, though. I mean, Bushbuckridge. You're not going to find skyscrapers and amazing infrastructure, but still, shame. I know it's really, really tough.
It's horrific. And you think about these people who are so dependent on our crappy government. Again, this is why any chance I get to interact with people in South Africa and ask them what situation they're in, what their big problems are, I say to them, okay, so are you voting? And then if they go, no, I'm not voting, I say to them, well, how do you expect anyone to help you if you won't help yourself? And then the second question is, who are you voting for? And I just blatantly ask them. I'm like, you know what? Are you voting ANC? And if they go, yes, then I go, how's your life going right now? No, not good. Okay, who do you think is to blame for your lack of service delivery, the state of the economy? And if they go, well, the ANC, then I say, well, are you going to vote for them again?
Yeah.
So it's and then I saw the stupid ANC celebrating their 112th birthday over the weekend. I'm not even going to hold back because there used to be a time where I would at least pretend. I wouldn't pretend. I genuinely did believe in like balance. And Leigh-Ann, you're an actual journalist. I'm not. I've never had to be a journalist. So I've never had to really be fair and equal with everybody. I always gave the ANC the time of day, though. I think I've spent more time in my life than I should ever have discussing the internal politics of the ANC. It's not that interesting. They're really just a bunch of servile thieves who will take money from wherever it comes or steal it if they can't take it from legitimate donors. They will put it in their own pockets before they sort out the people. But blah, 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 blah. I just want to tell you about this project quickly because this is amazing. So there's a woman called Sivan. She's from Israel. And she started this project, God, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. And she basically installs, they drill for water. She installs a solar array on the top of the tank. Then the next level down is the tank itself. Next level down is a pump house, which is safe and contains all the electrics. And then obviously all the mechanics of getting the water down to the tap.
Sure.
And they've installed in this village that we went to yesterday. And really, I mean, this is like a poor community. There's very, very high unemployment. It's very rural out here. The villages themselves are not great places to live, but you know what? They're not the worst places in South Africa. The fact that these old ladies, I mean, we're talking grandmothers, used to have to go to the river and help themselves to water with a bucket. Dirty water, by the way, that would give everyone in the family diarrhea. That you have to carry a bucket on their head. That is the water they would use for cooking, the water they would use for washing, the water they would use for drinking. And they would have to do this early in the morning, like before 4 o'clock. And if you ask them why they had to go before 4 o'clock, it's because they had to get there before the animals.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is their lives. And remember, it was the women in these villages who would have to go and do this. And then crossing main roads and being hit by cars and, you know, crocodiles taking people. I mean, it's like the most horrific set of circumstances you can imagine. It sounds like something from like a horror movie. And now because of this tank, 8,000 people in this village are going to be able to get running water, clean running water. Immediately they open the tap and it's there. They've never, ever done that before.
Yeah.
You know, you and I wake up in the morning and we open a tap and water comes out. I mean, in Joburg, 50-50. But, you know, most of the time you know what you're getting. These guys have never seen this before. You should have seen the excitement, the genuine gratitude with which we were met. And I did nothing. It was just these people, this Sivan, who's incredible. The team is called Innovation Africa. And they have done this. You just sit still and make sure that you're sitting comfortably. When I tell you this number, you're going to shit yourself. This incredible woman and her team have brought water to 5 million people on the African continent.
Sure.
Tanzania, Kenya, Malawi, Lesotho, Swaziland, South Africa. They've helped people who would never, ever have got this from their governments. That is extraordinary to me. That is, you know, when you talk about projects that are changing the world, it's not, you know, it's not little food programs here or there. God bless them. I'm not going to take anything away from them. But water, if you don't have that, you've got nothing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you saw when just before you interviewed Dan Mace, Mr. Beast dropped a similar video where they went and also installed water all over Africa, and then they went under fire because they said they were overstepping on government land or whatever, and they were just trying to flex their money or something.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the case, but it's unbelievable this is still happening. I mean, a week ago, the first day back here, Gareth, I sat here with Jane, and she had got some videos from home. She went, you know, she lives in Limpopo, and she asked me to help put together a tweet that she could show people what her living conditions are like, because she also walks with her kids to the river.
Yeah.
And when I say river, it's hardly a river. I mean, it's a tiny little stream with water that looks white. Yeah, it looks like a little stream. And she has to get a bucket or two of water and then go boil it and use it, as you say, for cooking, cleaning. Yeah. And it's such a reality for people that, you know, we don't really see every day. And it's quite insane. It still happens.
So I know that South Africans, because we have so many charities, apparently we have more charities than they do in America because we have such need, right? When we hear this philanthropy stuff, it kind of becomes wallpaper. I don't know that we pay as much attention as we probably should to this stuff, but I just am absolutely blown away by the fact that people from all over the world come over here and help us solve our problems. And let's forget this bullshit that we can solve them on our own, because we've tried that. And there are certain things we can do and certain things that we can't. We need help sometimes. And the fact that there are good people all over the world who are willing to come and sort this stuff out, I'm just blown away. So I see Rebellious Ruth, who is the chairperson of the comments section, is starting a new job today. So good luck with that one, Ruth. Very, very good. And good luck to anybody, because it is January. So apparently this is the biggest month in HR anywhere in the world. So January starts, because people want to change jobs, so that a lot of people resign and start something new. A lot of people start the year and go, nah, I'm doing something different. And a lot of people obviously get fired in December, so they have to start something new in January. So this is the time when people are looking at jobs.
Also, you know, the process of giving out bonuses in December is huge. My brother's in HR in global banking, and you've got to decide who gets what and go through performance reviews, and it's a huge thing. It's not like the money just lands in your account.
No, so, and obviously a lot of people will stay for the bonus and then resign in January, you know.
Wouldn't you?
Well, I don't know. I have never received a bonus in my life. I don't know what a 13th check feels or looks like. And I think a lot of us who are freelancers probably feel like that's a world we don't know anything about. So, and I mean, you know, if you're paying yourself, you don't give yourself a bonus if your company needs to worry about January, February, March.
The entertainment industry is wild. I mean, in radio now, I don't know about when you guys were back on radio. I don't know how long your contracts were, but when I was chatting to some producers at the SABC, their contracts have gone down. I don't know now, but 2 years ago, they were on 3-month contracts. So it's just if you can make it past 3 months, you know.
Sure. I mean, how do you obtain a home loan on that? You can't. I remember when we were there, it was 1-year contracts, and even then, it was difficult to obtain something like a home loan.
1 year.
A lot of comments in the comments section today about Leigh-Ann's hair. A lot of people saying you're looking very beautiful this morning. Look at this. Yeah,
can
people
I
say, wow, Leigh-Ann looks great today, and very good. Very good.
So it's makes a big difference when you start earning some money, you know. And I'm becoming quite aware of the whole money can't buy you happiness thing, because I think that's a load of shit.
Well, having been like, because you did tell us that, you know, the last couple of years have not been amazing for you financially. So that's good news.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tracy says 13th check bonus. That's a unicorn. Yeah.
Sure.
I think I did get one when I started at the SABC in 1998.
Bonus.
When I was an intern. I mean, interns in those days, people were very well paid at the SABC. And I mean, my first salary coming out of varsity to be taught by world recognized journalists and presenters and producers, to be taught every day for free. I was paid nearly 4,000 Rand. I had a car allowance, a housing allowance, a bonus check. You know, it was very different back then to now. People are really struggling.
And they don't make it easier for the employees either.
No, I definitely don't want to spend a single solitary second of our time this morning talking about the SABC, though. We've got other fish to fry. So we mentioned and I do want to stay away from politics in general first thing on a Monday morning, but we cannot ignore the ANC's 112th birthday party. I don't know if you saw any of it on TV. I saw they were passing around a fake coffin with Jacob Zuma MK party written on it. This is very South African, and it's a very unique thing to us that I don't know any other country where they like make a coffin. And I mean, if you could, if anywhere it would be appropriate probably for Joe Biden, you know, because he's so fucking old, is to have a coffin. But in South Africa, that is kind of the most insulting thing you can do to a political party is make a fake coffin and pass it around at a big stadium event. That's what they were doing. So I think they're very threatened by the Zuma party because they keep talking about it. Cyril made a 2-hour-long speech. So no, I don't know what he said. I saw small bits of it, and really I couldn't have cared less. I saw it on the TV at the gym on Saturday. And really it just had headlines like, we must make the unions stronger. These other parties will steal your social grants. Whole lot of bullshit. Just like obvious party line nonsense. And anyone who still thinks Cyril Ramaphosa is the guy to save South Africa, let's pray for Cyril. Those people, you need your head read. You're the kind of person who keeps going back to a husband who abuses you, going, oh no, he still loves me. Oh, I know he's going to change. He's capable of change. And then you come back with a black eye every other day. So I have no sympathy for you anymore. Sorry.
For me, it's Fikile Mbalula just walking around like he's the president, like waving. Did you see him do like this? They went around the stadium just like walking, waving to all the people. And I was like, oh man, this is so cringe to watch. Yeah, but they also had like chicken licking food parcels and things. And
check this out.
Always about bribery, always.
Why do you think anyone would go and listen to that fucking asshole talk for 2 hours? So here it is. Here's some people in the crowd. This was posted on social media. This is the that's the food parcel you get. So, votela ANC, and here's your food so that you'll shut up and be a good slave.
Yeah, your t-shirts, your shoes. Yeah. I mean, your food, your shoes.
Well, maybe who knows? The shoes might come in. I saw all the ANC's top brass sitting on the stage in their ANC regalia, their colors. They've got those those terrible leather jackets. I mean, it was so hot in Mpumalanga yesterday, because I was here yesterday, so I can speak for that. Not in Nelspruit, but close. And I can only imagine how warm it was in that stadium. And you imagine these sweaty, greedy ANC grifters sitting there in their regalia, kind of eating cake. They cut up a cake. It's the biggest cake I've seen. It looked like our square kilometer array in the Karoo that we used to look into the atmosphere and then beyond. We used it to study the stars. And this thing was enormous. And then they all gather, all the like ANC top brass. There are about 10 of them around there with knives, and they all cut into this enormous cake. And I just suddenly thought, is there ever a better illustration and metaphor for South Africa than the ANC top brass cutting up the cake of South Africa for their own greed? And then they feed on, and you've got a stadium full of people. Now, I don't know whether there was actually any cake in there or whether it was just a fake one. It looked like it was real. And I wonder how many people, because that's really how they see South Africa. They see South Africa as this cake, which they get to cut first. They get to cut themselves a slice. And then whatever's left at the end, after the ANC have totally like demolished it, whatever's left afterwards is for the people of South Africa,
Yeah.
Did you see like, I saw clips on Twitter. I don't know what the context of it is, but did you see they had like these military looking people there?
Well, it's like, this is what's left of Umkhonto weSizwe, because the ones who were actually in the struggle are now so old that they're basically all in wheelchairs. But here are the guys. This is what they put together as like I suppose you could call it a parade of some kind. Like a military parade is often what, whether it's the president on a national holiday and there's a march past to show off how good your military is. Look at these guys, because not two people in this group. It looks like a very small, it's not even a regiment. It's like a it's 5, 10, 15 people. They cannot get in time for anything. Just watch this and just look at the state of, I don't know if this is our military or if it's Umkhonto weSizwe, but you'd think these guys were doing this in front of a stadium full of people. You'd think they'd maybe like put in 5 minutes of practice. I mean, okay, so all they had to do was put their one foot down, put the other foot down, stand at ease, right? That's all. Couldn't even do that in time. I mean, we can do Jerusalem across this country, ordinary civilians who are not trained in military marching or anything. Ordinary civilians can do a coordinated dance. You go to any wedding in South Africa, people know how to do all the dances, right? People do group dances. Everyone's on time. It's amazing. You got like old white people who grew up during apartheid who can do like these awesome like songs, and they can dance. They know what to do, but not our military and not the Mkonto or Sizwe guys. They have no idea what to do when it comes to actually doing something in formation. Why? Because they actually don't have any discipline. That's why.
Yeah,
that's the simple truth. Tracy says the cake got donated to children's homes, but they could have built more children's homes. Well, if they donated the cake to children's homes, that is good. And I will give credit where it's due. If that is true, awesome. 2 hours long, Cyril's speech. Didn't Gwede fall asleep again? Well, Gwede, let me tell you, Gwede's stomach is now so enormous. Like his stomach was touching the cake before the knife did. His stomach was it's almost like his stomach has now developed, what do they call those things? Pseudo, it's almost like his stomach has...
It's its own character.
It's got its own hands. It's like his stomach was reaching out for the cake without his hands even knowing. Yeah, like prehensile like things that come out of it. Anyway. It's unbelievable. So I thought sheep were vegetarian. I bet the cake cost the South African taxpayers R1 million. Well, the ANC certainly has money.
I don't think it's from us.
Story? No, it's not from us, but it would have been if the ANC hadn't received a huge amount of money. Now, where the hell could this have happened? I don't know. Maybe it coincides with their appearance at the International Courts of Justice and with their very strong stance against Israel. I wonder how it is that Naledi Pandor and a delegation of people went to Iran between that hideous attack in Israel of October the 7th and the end of last year. They went there. I think there were two separate delegations that went to Iran. Now, Iran is a very rich country because they've got oil, right? And we know the ANC couldn't even pay their rent at Luthuli House. And remember that the sheriff was going to come and attach their stuff because they hadn't paid a media company for billboards. So they were out of money. Remember, they weren't paying any of the staff there. It was very well documented. So that wasn't nonsense. And they acknowledged they were having huge financial problems. And then Fikile announces suddenly, we have no more financial problems. We've got money. Where do you think that came from suddenly? Any idea? Any guesses? I haven't seen any thoughtful, curious articles in any of our local news about where that money might have come from. It seems to me like journalists in South Africa are just not even curious about where the ANC suddenly derived a whole heap of money. I wonder if you could join the dots. I mean, I don't have to lay it out for you any more than that, do I? And then I saw over the weekend, while we're talking about that issue, that a 19-year-old cricketer has been he hasn't been dropped from the team, but he's been dropped from the captaincy of the team. And I wonder why that is. Here's the statement from them. Cricket South Africa is honoured to have been named by the International Cricket Council, ICC, as the host of the Under-19 Men's Cricket World Cup, which commences on the 19th of January. The decision was taken in November last year, blah, blah, blah. Then they go into this. We've also been advised they're likely to focus on the position of the South African Under-19 captain, David Teager, and that there is a risk that could result in conflict or even violence, including between rival groups of protesters. CSA has a duty to safeguard the interests and safety of all of those. In all circumstances, they have decided that David should be relieved of the captaincy for the tournament. This is in the best interests of all the players, the SA Under-19 and David himself. What a lot of nonsense. Basically, because he's, guess what? He's Jewish. A Jew. Yeah, so if you're Jewish, we can't guarantee your safety. So then how can you guarantee the safety of any of the players?
No, that's the thing. You should, if anyone's in danger, the tournament should be cancelled as a whole.
Right. But
this whole thing
I
taking
expected nothing less from Cricket South Africa. I don't know about you.
Oh no, same.
Well, the thing is, the argument is, well, if he needed protection, like you say, Gareth, then everyone should be protected, and Ryan. But then why didn't they just put in extra security measures?
Right.
They've made a fool of themselves now by making this small move instead of making bigger choices and better choices overall for everybody.
I think that this is a disgrace. And if I were any of the other countries participating in this, I would say, well, you know what? We're not coming either. If you can't guarantee the safety of one of your own players in your own country, then you can't guarantee anyone's safety. So we'll have to call it off.
So the story goes that they don't want to have any bumps in the tournament because we just got assigned the tournament last minute. Sri Lanka, I don't know how it dropped out. I don't really follow cricket much, but basically Sri Lanka were meant to host it. Then now we are hosting it, and so they don't want any bumps in the road coming forward. So they don't want any protesters coming to this thing, because apparently in David Teeger's speech at a Jewish awards ceremony a while back, that was only with Jewish people, by the way. It wasn't really a public thing. He acknowledged that he's not really a hero, but the Israeli soldiers are, and it got out somewhere, and so now because of those comments,
but since when
dropped from the team?
Well, since when?
Well, for the tournament.
Since when are we a country that punishes people for their views? We relied on sports people having scruples and criticizing the old apartheid regime, right? It was one of the reasons, one of the most successful things about the anti-apartheid movement in the world was the fact that they boycotted local sport, because local sport was considered to be, if you're going to be bigoted and discriminate, and you're going to treat people inside your own country in two different ways, there's this set of laws for those people and this set of laws for another, apartheid, then the rest of the world doesn't have to play cricket against you, or tennis, or rugby, or soccer, or anything else. And it was considered a move of conscience for sports people to state their opposition to the old regime, to state their unwillingness to participate in sport. And I think about this guy, and he's a young man. I don't think anyone should be punished for their views at age 16, 17, 18, 19. And I also don't think that it's good of Cricket South Africa to hang him out to dry like this. They should be supporting this guy and supporting everyone on the team. Frankly, we've had people who are extremely religious on the team, who are Muslims, who wouldn't wear the sponsor's name on the shirt, and nobody had a problem with that. We've had people who would criticize various things about governments here and in other countries. I don't think that's a problem. I think you should be allowed as a sports person to stand for something. And it is the job of the governing body, in this case, Cricket South Africa, to look after and protect those people, and to say, listen, you're entitled to your opinion, but if you're a cricket player and you're wearing our national colors, we will support and protect you. We're a country that encourages free speech, are we not?
Yeah.
But also just sports in general is known to have values and to stand up to things like this, not actually, because right now it's kind of supporting it. It's like, you know what, let's just eliminate the problem and then we'll move on. And it's like, no, because now they've got a new captain in place, Joanne James, and everybody's not going to be rooting for him. He might, be a target now because this guy's been dropped and now everyone wants him back, and now this guy has to be a captain. It's messed up the whole thing for me.
It's horrible.
I have no interest in South Africa.
Imagine how the rest of the team feels, because they know they could be hung out to dry as well. Hank says, I'd love to see the procurement procedures followed to procure that legal team that we sent to the ICJ. Well, that's going to cost a couple of $100 million rand as well. But let's see, because now I'm hoping someone in South Africa's journalist fraternity will go and actually investigate where this money's come from. Bought a new set of Sennheiser headphones. Nice, says Tsavo. Nice. You're buying yourself presents in January. You must have a lot of cash. That's
So he's being
great.
clever
Yeah.
because
How was your
you wait
bonus?
for the sales.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
also
Oh,
true.
yes, there are sales going on here. That's great. Sri Lanka were banned and blocked from hosting due to government interference in cricket. Ha. Now we're doing the same thing. Fuck CSA, says Carl. Well, government interference in sport is the name of the game in South Africa, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
the two go together. When they completely
Yeah.
shouldn't, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's see what happens. But I think it's a disgrace. I really do. And I would think that if, for example, you took a sports person who had very strong views on the American election, or if you took someone who believed very strongly for or against immigration, and they voiced their opinion, you don't fire someone from the team because of that. They clearly want to talk about something. They clearly have a point of view. Let them have it. You know, if people aren't allowed to stand for something, they'll fall for everything. And I've had enough. I, for one, have had enough of hearing boring, mediocre post-match
Sterile.
analysis. Yeah, from sports people. Let them stand for something. At least we know what we're dealing with then. I think it's great. All right, and Aussie cricket player wrote "Free Palestine" on his shoes, and he was suspended. You know, again, there were protests at the U.S. Embassy apparently over the weekend in Sandton. Again, those people who are protesting on the side of Palestine should be entitled to protest for Palestine. I don't see any problem with that. As long as you're not violent, and as long as you are not expressing outright hatred for people, which is difficult to define, let's be fair, because some people's opinions are hateful and some hateful opinions should be allowed. Like, I don't think that, blatant bigotry, racism, or any of that kind of thing is encouraged. And it certainly tells us a lot about your character if that's the way you behave. But I don't want to live in a country where people can't say what they think, even if it's stuff I disagree with. I want to live in a country where you can say what you think. And if I agree with you, that's great. Then I know what you stand for. But if I don't, we can have a civil conversation about it. I can go, look, I hear you, but I don't agree with you. That's the optimum condition for anyone in the world, is to go, yeah, there's different people, different opinions. Everybody's entitled to theirs. And we're a country that allows you to say what you think, even if it's something that other people would consider gross. Yeah,
it's allowing. It's all about control. I mean, these players are controlled in every way. In how you can tell that they've been coached in how to give their after-match speeches, which is why they're so sterile. The only thing they're allowed to have an opinion of, and it's not even an opinion, is brand sponsorships. They can express an absolute love for a product they probably don't even use. That's allowed. But
no, it's not only allowed; it's encouraged with money.
Yeah, yes, but no, you can't have an opinion on anything else. You just have to be this sterile cricket player.
And if we're going to have a problem with people's opinions that they're not paid for, then why don't we have a problem with the opinions that they're actually paid to have, which we probably don't know for sure that they actually do have. Anyway, that's about enough political stuff for one morning. We've got so many other things to talk about this morning. Plus, we'll be joined by a guest shortly who's actually a friend of mine, and she has some very interesting things to tell us about not only young people in this country, what they're doing for employment and opportunity, but also like sexual behavior in South Africa and how that impacts on the way that people behave, especially at the beginning of the year. There are lots of choices that need to be made. And for young women in particular, those choices are kind of limited in many situations. It's not ideal, but that's what it is. We're going to talk a little bit about opportunities in the job market for young people. And we'll do that later on. There's this amazing company called Ifundi. Ifundi is a training institution that specializes in futuristic and technologically enabled careers. Now, those are the ones we need, right? We don't want to keep hiring people in jobs that are going to be redundant soon. We want to give young people in South Africa, especially talented and hardworking young people, an opportunity to get into careers that have a future, careers that are going to grow. So we'll talk about that later on too. Let's just quickly get into a few things. First of all, some sports results from the weekend. Beyond the Scoreboard is our chance to do a quick sports recap. with super bets, and that's why we've got Ryan here this morning. So
Yes.
take us through some of the results. Here it is.
Okay, well, I got this from Ben. Let's kick off with some cricket. The Durban Super Giants and Paarl Royals setting early pace with 2 wins from 2. The biggest win this weekend was MI Cape Town hammering Joburg Super Kings by 98 runs after posting 243 for 5. Today, it's the Super Giants versus Joburg Super Kings at 5:30. In rugby, the Investec Championship Cup, Bulls beat Bristol 31-17 and Stormers beat Sale 31-24. So that's really cool there. Getting into some Premier League, Chelsea beat Fulham 1-0. Man City beat Newcastle 3-2. Everton and Aston Villa drew. And Man United and Spurs, they drew 0-0. And Man United and Spurs drew as well 2-2. In your AFCON news, Ivory Coast beat Guinea-Bissau 2-0. And the major surprises that Ben makes here is Egypt and Mozambique drew 2-2. Salah with the 97th minute penalty equalizer. And Nigeria and Equatorial Guinea also drew 1-1. So that's very cool. And then today, Tuesday, we are playing.
Leigh-Ann, you're
Mali.
a big supporter of. Leigh-Ann is a massive Equatorial Guinea fan, aren't you?
Yeah, I've been following them all my life. My whole family does for some reason. We have roots in Equatorial Guinea. Who knew?
Yeah. So then South Africa play Mali at 10 o'clock on Tuesday evening. And then let's not forget, Ben's going to walk us through on Friday with UFC 297 this Sunday at 5 a.m. for the main card, Strickland versus Dricus du Plessis. And it was his birthday on the weekend. So happy birthday
Yes,
to
I
him.
saw that.
And yeah, it's going to be a really good fight. We're all looking forward to this as a country, I think. Ben will do a complete walkthrough on Friday. So yeah.
All right. Well, you know what, Ryan? That's a nice little recap. Of course, in case you don't already know, super bets are the reason that we talk sport on Fridays and Mondays, because ordinarily, unless Ben was around, we probably wouldn't. So it's an opportunity for us to discuss one of the biggest subjects of interest for South Africans. It may not be for me and Leigh-Ann a lot of the time, but I'm glad to say that we are now doing a great and an amazing sports summary on a Friday with Ben. He has an unbelievable take on these things. He's probably the most interesting guy when it comes to making sport interesting to people who don't care about sport. And I find myself getting excited. Simpiwe finds herself betting money. And speaking of that, if you want to go and try your luck at sports betting, it's a really fun thing to do. We got into it especially during the Rugby World Cup last year. Superbets supports responsible gambling, strictly now under 18s. Winners know when to stop. South Africa's Responsible Gambling Foundation's toll-free counselling hotline is 0800 006 008. But go and register if you haven't already. Go to the links on cliffcentral.com and you will get a chance to participate in some of these games. Make it that much more exciting. You have some literal skin in the game. Exactly. By the way, Leigh-Ann already mentioned this, but Dr. Hanan will be back next week. You can send us your questions if you've got something that you need our resident psychologist to answer for you. All you need to do is email us contact@cliffcentral.com, and we will put you on with the good Dr. Hanan. Very, very exciting. So quickly, Leigh-Ann's got a couple of things she wants to get on the scoreboard this morning, since we're doing beyond the scoreboard. Well, here's something she wants to talk about. A man pretending to be Queen Elizabeth's footman is selling an antler walking stick that never belonged to her, and he's been sentenced. There are so many chances out there. Like, you've got to admire people's ingenuity. They're like, I was never the Queen's footman or whatever. I never worked on her staff. I've got this walking stick. I could put this online and try to sell it for lots more than it's worth. I mean, some people would fall for that. They'd be willing to part with a lot of money for this, but he was caught. Yeah,
he was caught. He even waited until just after she died because he realized he could obviously get more money. I had to look up an antler walking stick. I know what various walking sticks look like. I think it has something to do with the shape of the handle, which represents deer antlers. Who knows where he got it from? He might have found it, like someone left it in a park or something. Who knows?
Right.
A 26-year-old guy from Romsey in England, Drew Marshall, and 26 years old, and he claimed to be a senior footman at Windsor Castle. And he listed this antler walking stick via an online auction just a week after she passed away. And that was eBay that he used. And he's actually been caught out and sentenced. So what happened is the bids reached about £540. And then he quickly closed the listing after he found out via that Thames Valley police were investigating the scam. He also, on top of that, said that the money raised was going to go to Cancer Research UK, an actual organization.
But he had no intention of giving them the money,
No.
right?
He had absolutely no intention. So when he
let me just put this in perspective. So you said it's around £500. That's 10,000 rand for a walking stick.
Yeah, actually, that's insane. I was going to say it sounds a bit short, but damn.
Yeah, it sounds a bit short. I mean, the Queen's walking stick as a footman.
Yeah. If I knew for a fact, if you had papers that could authenticate that it was actually the Queen's walking stick, even then, would I pay 10,000 rand? I don't know. I mean, it would be for a collector. I suppose it would be a really cool thing to have. You could I don't know, hit other people on the head with it and say, "There we go. That's this used to be the Queen's."
Or you could knight people with it.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, also, what was his story? Did he was spinning? Was he going to say that it was gifted to him by the Queen, or that he just nicked it? Who knows? Anyway, he changed his story a million times throughout being questioned by police, and it changed from it was just a social experiment to see how much attention my post would receive. Some of them just said that some of his excuses were like, it was just a game, I didn't mean it.
Yeah, of course, he's going to come up with all of this after the fact, but he was trying to sell. He was trying to pass off this walking stick as being the Queen's. He's just a bullshit artist. That's what he is. But you got to admire the hustle, right?
Yeah. Well, good try, but yeah.
I would be pissed if I got like sentenced and only like got £540 for it. I mean, I've seen bathwater go for more water than that, more money than that.
Yes, he has his sentence. He has a 12-month community order, and also ordered to complete 40 hours of unpaid work.
Oof.
Well,
not too bad.
I haven't. I don't know if I have any sympathy. Listen, a lot of people are taking chances. Hey, I mean, people will sell such crap, and if you think about it, who hasn't been scammed? It's not just Lebang who gets scammed all the time. I bet you've bought something online, and then when it arrives, you look at it and go, that's great. Shouldn't have spent that money.
Yeah.
There's a feud on TikTok at the moment between a woman who saw an ad about these vitamin type drops or oils, these like serums, that if you used them either on your skin or you ingested them, you could fix all your sight problems. You wouldn't need glasses anymore. So she decided to investigate this. And it's a woman in America who, once you sign up for this big course, she spends about 2.5 seconds talking about the visual effects, and the rest of it is just about selling the oils. And secondly, you're not supposed to ingest any of these oils. It says clearly on the bottle. Turns out it's a pyramid scheme, this whole thing. And so this woman, called her out and sent letters directly to customer services or consumer services. And they all said, no, we know about her, and she's known to us, and we are investigating.
Oh, wow.
Imagine being so
horrible that people know about you when an incident arises. Oh, we know about her. She's a big problem. We're aware of her. She's a pain in the ass. Mapelo says, I almost got scammed on Saturday. I was selling my phone so I could buy a laptop. The potential buyer drove to pick up the phone and also sent me a POP, proof of purchase. I refused to give the phone to the driver. He was obviously a bullshit artist too. Yeah. So I'm glad. Yeah, without seeing the money in my account. After that, he blocked me. Oh, he was definitely a scammer.
Don't give any if they're not coming in person, don't give it to drivers. Even these Uber pickup
Hell
drivers.
no.
Don't do it.
No.
Don't do it.
There's a lot of crooks. They're crooks out there. They want your money and they want your stuff.
We spoke last week about Gypsy Rose, and
yes,
she's had to come out and give her a little statement on TikTok to say that she'd resecured her account after it had been hacked, but also that so many fake accounts have been set up which look very realistic, and they're all these GoFundMe details saying that she's asking for money. And she's come on and she's had to say, I don't want anybody's money. I don't need anybody's money. These are fake accounts. Yeah.
Well,
but also
apparently
interesting.
there are more revelations about her. I mean, I didn't know who this was until you told me last week, but now suddenly I'm getting information about her. So apparently, I know. So she also was forced to admit that the guy who she talked into doing the murder for her, she bought the weapon. She did all the heavy lifting, and he's apparently got a very low IQ. So she obviously bullied him, or paid him, or bribed him, or enticed him to do this. It just all sounds very dodgy, if you ask me.
Well, I mean, you must remember that she has learnt manipulation skills from a master manipulator, being her mother.
Her mother.
Yes.
She had to be manipulative in order to survive. She still has to. So, there are traits in her that have been kind of born and bred, and she'll never get rid of them. But yes, she can be manipulative. So a lot of people are trying to buck the trend of following her and saying how sweet she is, and how amazing it is that she's free now. A lot of them saying, if you conspire to commit a murder, you are a murderer. She's denying that she's a murderer.
Yeah.
But there's lots of entertaining stuff going on at the moment with her. And obviously, her big documentary has now been released.
We have plenty more to talk about in a short while. But first, I want to welcome Zonja Penzhorn, who is the head of marketing at Shout It Now. We'll find out what Shout It Now is all about. But I think we must talk a little bit about teen pregnancies and HIV rates in South Africa, because I heard a horrific statistic at the end of last year, and I'm not going to quote that because I don't know whether it's true or not. Zonja probably has a much better idea of what is and isn't true. But we do have a major problem in this country when it comes to teen pregnancy. Around New Year and Christmas, they always say how many Christmas babies were born and how many New Year's babies were born. And it's frightening how many of those babies are the babies of teen moms. Young girls who should be at school, young girls who should be thinking about their future. Sometimes they have no idea of what's going on. Sometimes they have no say in what's going on. And I wonder if those statistics are going to upset you as much as they did me. It was one of the things I did hear over the holidays, even though I was avoiding news. But let's welcome Zonja. Hello, Zons. How are you?
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Good. Nice to see you. And happy Monday. Listen, I started with the subject that I know you know a lot more about than the rest of us, but it's something which we should all, as South Africans, be aware of. And it's something we should do whatever we can to help, diminish. We have a massive problem with teen pregnancies in South Africa. I wonder how we're doing on that front. Then we'll get to HIV. Tell us about the actual statistics.
Yeah, I think I'm going to break it down into a daily number. So if you look throughout the year, how many pregnancies or how many live births comes from girls between the ages of 10 and 17, that number per day is 291 babies are born from girls the age 10 to 17. Now, like you said, some of these girls, when you're that young, your body can't even carry another human being. And then we need to also call it what it is. It's not necessarily teen pregnancy, it's statutory rape. But I think the most important question here is why? Why is this happening? And the thing is, and you said we'll get to HIV later, but everything is interlinked. The teen pregnancy, HIV, GBV, there's on average 116 rapes reported every day. That's just from the ones reported. But then we need to look at our unemployment rate, and that's sitting at a 60.7% between for the youth between 15 and 24. So now you start thinking about it and say, well, why is there such a high teen pregnancy rate? Why is there such a high GBV rate? Why do these young women feel like, they have no choice? And when you do not have access to an income for basic necessities like sanitary wear for girls, what is your only currency? And I know it's a big way to come in here, but that's kind of the reality of the situation.
Well, I mean, you deal with this stuff every day, so there's no need for you to kind of tread carefully around it. We also need to know what's actually going on. I see a comment here from Glynis who says, thank you, Gareth, for talking about teen pregnancy and HIV. This is something we introduce at schools as part of their curriculum. Well, clearly, though, Glynis, it's not, the message is not getting through, or as Zonja says, people's personal and financial circumstances are so absolutely awful that this is the only currency they have. And it doesn't matter how much you tell them it's bad, and you explain the situation and what it can mean for their futures. If that's all they can do to survive, then we've got a major problem on our hands.
Yeah. And I think the thing is, it's great that it is in schools, but we need to speak more openly about it. So even if a young woman doesn't have a choice, right, from a financial point of view, she should have the choice to ensure that she doesn't contract HIV. So there's HIV prevention methods for called PrEP, which is pre-exposure prophylaxis. It takes 7 days before you have unprotected sex, which prevents you from getting HIV, plus post-exposure. So, and this is also for people in occupational situations or where condom broke. But can you imagine a young woman? Plus, then there's emergency contraception and all of that stuff. But a young woman is scrutinized and judged. And even if, there is a multitude of free services. At Shout It Now, we especially focus on the youth to provide this youthful, non-judgmental environment. Our staff are young, recruited from the environments in which they serve. We have these beautiful private custom-built mobile buses. But the services are all for free, and there's a lot of services that are for free, but it's so stigmatized.
That's incredible, though. I just want to stop for a second, because Shout It Now, are you guys an NGO that does this to try and help these young women and obviously the young men as well, but primarily these young women? You have trucks. You have these counselors. You supply sanitary wear. What exactly do you do?
So we focus on HIV and gender-based violence prevention, especially focused towards young women, adolescent women and young girls between the ages of 10, 15 to 24. And we are funded by PEPFAR from the CDC. And we work with the local government, with the Department of Health, with multiple partners to ensure that we can provide a holistic offering to the youth. So that's what we do at the moment. But currently what we've seen recently is the implementation of what we call economic strengthening. And this is not only are we tasked to look after young people's health in terms of HIV prevention, HIV treatment, contraception, gender-based violence. We have social workers all over. Now we need to implement economic strengthening, which is basically providing them with a platform where they can learn how to write a CV, potentially get a job. We having to try to get seed money for her to, start making bracelets or, which helps, but it's not sustainable. And we need the support of private sector, one that's got such a phenomenal, credible voice to destigmatize access to free health services or preventative services. And then second of all, any private sector brand that's got youth, whether it's boys or girls, in their consumer set needs to get on board with that and look at what is the price of your brand, because it could potentially come with the risk of HIV or unwanted pregnancy or gender-based violence.
I do have to admire that the work that you guys do, even though there's mission creep. I mean, you start off trying to, help people with health issues and young girls, teen pregnancy, HIV, all the things that you were speaking about now, but also to then have to get involved in creating opportunities and helping these people to find a place in the economy. This shows you how big this task is for the whole of South Africa. So obviously you're calling for corporates to help you because this is expensive stuff that you're doing, and you've got to reach as many people as possible. But it also is a pretty poor reflection on us as a country that we're leaving this many people behind.
I think the thing is, and we don't need to overcomplicate it. The first thing is we really need to destigmatize the conversation around sexual and reproductive health so that young people have free access. We need to start speaking openly about with our boys to raise them to be the men that's, that we expect them to be. And then second of all, yes, we need a commitment from the private sector, because if you've got the youth in your consumer segment, right, and you're thinking, oh, the youth segment is growing, but sitting with a 60.7% unemployment rate, think about what that's going to mean in 5 years' time. Because at the moment, where are these young people finding the money to spend them? And I'm talking about necessity. So data, cell phone, not to be fancy, but to have access to information, right? Sanitary, if you can stay in school, transport. These are basic necessities. Then couple that with these amazing lifestyles that we project in the ads. Where's the money coming from? For those products. So I think we need to just be real.
That's quite scary. Okay, so Leigh-Ann, I'm sure you've got some questions. You've also you monitor social media. You know that these things are going on and that people are in desperate need in this country. You have any questions for Zonja? The work they do at Shout It Now?
I think firstly, just to be expressive of how shocking it is that these girls are as young as 10 years old. I mean, you think you're in grade 1 when you're 6. It's just a few years later. And the statistic has certainly changed a lot since when I was their age. But it also makes me remember back to that time, when we were trying to educate ourselves at that age on things like reproductive health and, what to do when you get your period and things like that. We actually only really spoke to our friends about it. We didn't often speak to our moms about it. I know things have changed now, but culturally and historically, and especially when you're looking at a more traditional setting, and the stigmas associated around everything, these girls are probably just talking to each other. And it must be such a difficult, not market, but area, a genre of people to get through to, and say, we're here to help you. Firstly, this is free, because I would have immediately thought, if I was in a sticky situation at that age, that something would be way too expensive and out of my league. So what do? I speak to my friends about what to do, which is just bad advice. So it must be such a difficult thing to try and get into these places and spread your message.
And yes, I'm in the marketing department, and it's we have in public health, we have a history of speaking at young people, and saying condomize and abstain, where that isn't the reality. And we've been working really, really hard to drive conversation, to provide content that is not dictating to the young person, but rather engaging with the young person. And that's why I have this invitation for big brands or small brands or brands of anything that would be appealing to the youth to help us in the conversation, because it's going to take me much longer to get that message out there and to try to destigmatize. Firstly, at least let people know what services are available, where they can find the services, and actually as a collective and as a society, then reinforce that services to the youth needs to be destigmatized. Because as soon as a big brand starts speaking that free access and it needs to be youth friendly and it should be for everyone, within the age brackets, then then, society would put pressure to ensure that these services are conducted in a way that is conducive to the youth and where they feel welcome for that. So in terms of the conversation,
where can people find out more? And if they want to get involved, if they're a corporate that wants to put some money into this very good initiative, maybe they can help. But also, if they're just someone listening now who thinks someone they know needs to get in contact with you for any of those reasons, contraception, teen pregnancy, HIV, gender-based violence, you guys provide these incredible services. Maybe there's someone who really needs them right now. How can they get hold of you?
So you can just email us at info@shoutitnow.org. So info@shoutitnow.org. You can find me personally on LinkedIn, and my name just pops up. I know it's a difficult one, but however you can try to find us, even if you just Google Shout It Now, you will be able to get hold of us. But let's just please start the conversation.
Beautiful. Well done on this work. It's awesome. Making a big difference.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on that.
Good stuff. Very good.
Bye.
That is Zonja Penzhorn, and we're talking about Shout It Now and the work that they do. Such necessary work for so many young women in this country, and not only the young women, the young men too. You heard her.
Yeah.
Trying to help people get employed. We're trying to help people make better life decisions. It's a very, very difficult business, this. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be back in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. Monday morning, cliffcentral.com. So much to talk about. And you can join us in the comments section. Like and subscribe. I have to keep reminding people, do that, because we don't want you left behind and we don't want you not knowing what's going on. Got to make sure that you're part of the inner circle. All right. We are back and we are live, cliffcentral.com on a Monday morning. And hopefully you had a good weekend. Did you do anything fun over the weekend, Leigh-Ann Mole? I can't hear you. I think you're on mute.
Sorry, to be honest, I just recovered from a hectic work week. Yeah, just did you end up when you have a busy week, you end up doing all the things on the weekend that you wished you could do during the week. So it ends up becoming quite administrative. I did dish out a large amount of money for a new set of tires, and it's such a grudge purchase. And I actually felt quite sorry for the tire salesman because they kind of look a little bit depressed because everyone handing over their money really doesn't want to do so. They're all arguing about the prices. You don't do that when you go grocery shopping. You don't say to the teller, this is really expensive. I can't afford it this month.
Absolutely. I had to replace a tire over the December holiday. Well, not even the holidays. Before the holidays, we were still doing the show. And I mentioned that I had to go and buy a new tire. And first of all, they're damned expensive. And second of all, these guys were truly unbelievably helpful because, I mean, it was an emergency. I needed to do it because one of the tires had a puncture in it. So I couldn't drive on it. It was bad.
Yeah,
and they came to the rescue. Yeah. But you just, with a tire, what are you going to do? Say, no, I'm going to negotiate. You can't negotiate. You're in no position to do that. You've got to just pay whatever is required.
Yeah, and also if you're going to own what is probably the biggest piece of machinery you own, you're going to have to expect that it needs upkeep and new tires. I mean, I drove through torrential rain last week on 2 days on quite long trips to work where you couldn't even see the lanes anymore and people were just speeding through it with no lights on and, of course, without the traffic lights working. And your car's kind of aquaplaning all over the place, and you can't really negotiate on your safety when it comes to something like that.
Well, you talk about torrential rain, a terrible, terrible situation in KZN, as if they hadn't had enough nonsense. But we talked about Ladysmith last week and those floods, and there were floods all over Gauteng too. But
I think you might have frozen there. But so looking at that torrential rain, I know that in Umhlanga over the past week and this weekend, it's just been horrendous. Huge swathes of land that have been washed away and enormous sinkholes and water infrastructures just completely wrecked. There are pipes coming out from these deep trenches, spewing water all over the place. And I just think, how much more can these people take? It's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think we've lost Gareth. He'll probably come back.
Yeah. No, absolutely. But yes, there was something else interesting that I came across over the weekend.
I think load shedding.
There we go.
Oh, there we go. Load shedding.
Wow.
I was just saying.
I got a visitor here. I've got to show you this quickly. During the break, I took this picture. Take a look.
Oh, wow.
Sitting in the tree, joining in the show this morning. So we have one more person in the comment section.
I was going to say, be glad he's in the tree and he's not like right next to you. Those things in your place.
He's waiting for you to have breakfast so that he can steal something.
On that note, last night I got up and went to go to supper with all the people we're here with, and I walked out of my room and there was a hyena outside my room.
What?
And I thought, big monster. He was a big guy, and your brain goes, "Wow, there's a dog," and then you suddenly realize, no, that's not a dog, and like some reptile part of your brain immediately goes, "Oh shit, this thing's if I go out there like this, it's going to try and eat me," and I suddenly realized like. I had to, first of all, you must never go out at night at these lodges because we've all heard horror stories, leopards taking people out and that kind of thing. It's not brave and clever to do this. But I grabbed the umbrella. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this, which is so stupid. Anyway, I did see one of the rangers walking with a torch just further on. And I'm not a pussy, but I mean, you don't want to end up against a hyena at night because you also don't know how many other hyenas are with that hyena, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There was a reporter in the US. Sorry, my hardy dars are waking up.
Wow.
I'm trying to gauge where it's coming from because Garrett's out in the wild there.
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah,
was
they
going to
know.
blame it on him, but I think there's more wildlife in our skies at the moment. But this reporter was standing at night next to a bushy area, doing a piece to camera, and it was nothing to do with animals or anything like that. I can't remember. It was some other issue. And the camera, zoomed out a bit. And in front of her, this animal came into shot and started walking towards the reporter. And she goes, "Oh, look, there's a dog in our shot." Anyway, so the council says blah, 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 and carries on with her report. And this animal almost brushes past her leg. That's how close it's going, walking very slowly. Turns out it was a mountain lion.
I would
Jesus.
run, drop the mic,
Wow.
run.
Wow.
She still said afterwards, "Oh, how strange about that dog." And the woman back in studio was going, "I hope that was a dog." Because it just definitely wasn't. A mountain lion.
No,
Yeah, quite
listen,
chill though.
don't these people who are like, "Oh no, I'm brave because I go out and in the wild, walking around in dry riverbeds and things at night." You're asking for trouble. Sometimes you never hear from the people who get eaten, right? They're not the ones who come back into
Or
these stories.
photographers. You know?
Yeah.
Like
absolutely.
we have a place in the Kruger and we go stay there every now and then. And when you go on these game drives to the Kruger, you'll see people get out their cars to take a shot. And it's a strict rule. You're not allowed out of your car. And these people just do it. And I'm like, you know what? You're on your own. You're on your own with that one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sorry, I
froze
froze again for a second. So Carl makes a good point, Leigh-Ann. 6 months ago, you couldn't afford tires. Count your blessings. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is something.
To be fair, tires are an expensive commodity.
Yeah, and I mean, what was interesting as well is that they kind of started me on the most expensive car. I mean, tire, because that's their job. As soon as I said I can't afford that, he said, "Oh no, we've got cheaper ones," and he gave me a cheaper package.
Yeah, right.
And
yeah.
and then when I said to him, "Look, I'm going to have to do 2 tires this month and 2 tires next. Is that possible?" And he said, "Well, it's definitely, I can't recommend it because you're going to have an 18 millimeter difference and then your stability's out and all of this." He said, "What is your budget actually, if you don't mind me asking?" So I was honest and I said, "This is how much is left in my account for the month." And he said, "Okay, I understand. I've got a cheaper tire. It's very good. All of our tires go through major tests. So, it's just a bit of a harder rubber. That's the only difference."
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone's trying to make a living.
100%.
Okay, so apparently, here's an interesting thing. Darren has friends who went right up to a shark in Cape Town. Yeah, there was that shark. This was a story we didn't really refer to. It was a whale shark in Clifton, for God's sake. This whale shark came right up onto the coast.
I saw that.
And a bunch of people got into the water. Look, a bunch of people got out of the water and ran, which I think is sensible behavior, even if it's a whale shark that doesn't eat people. But you don't know that. When you see a fin, you're like, "I'm out of here. Sorry." That's me anyway. I wouldn't stick around to find out what was going on there. And then a lot of other people got into the water and then started involving themselves and interfering with this thing.
Nope.
Apparently they saved it because it was a juvenile that had got too close to the shore, and then because they're so big they can't move necessarily, they beach themselves. I don't know if that's true for whale sharks, but that looks like what was happening, and they saved it. So that's good news.
Anthony Meteor must have been like over the hills with that one, because I know how much he loves talking about sharks.
It's over the moon. Over the hill means
over the moon.
old.
Sorry, over the moon. Had a little bit of a moment there.
There was a seal actually in Kalk Bay this weekend. His name is Bruce. Now, I lived in Kalk Bay, so I know the seals there. And they are notoriously old and grumpy and violent and dangerous.
Yeah.
They look really sweet. They, lie on their sides. In fact, one of my favorite photos I took one morning was of two of them lying in a heart shape. But if you hover over them for a second, they snap up at you and recoil and make these enormous noises, these grunting noises. So there was Bruce, who's one of them, who they noticed had very tightly a piece of plastic around his neck. So they had to call in the professionals, and they even said, I know these Kalk-Bay seals, they're very difficult to deal with. But they managed to cut it off of his neck. And it turned out to be, do you remember those ghastly, enormous, phallic-looking suckers that we had as kids that we'd wear them around our necks? They look like big dummies. And you could
Oh, yes.
You remember those? It was the neck piece of one of those and the plastic anchor coming out of that.
Ooh.
And you think there was one child or parent who was irresponsible with that piece of plastic. And poor Bruce has had this growing into his blubber for months. It's horrible. But Jesus. Yeah, Bruce is okay, and so the people had to help him.
Unreal, hey? I mean, actually, you think you don't make a difference in the world, and you find out that someone just throwing that into the sea or littering or putting it in a river upstream or something and flows down into the sea, you can cause unbelievable harm. So if you don't think you matter, just remember, A, there's like some seal with plastic around its neck because of some person, and B, if you drive badly this morning, you will make hundreds of thousands of people late if you cause an accident. It's always like the craziest thing, right? Did you see the video of the guy who jumped into the ocean from those Durban bridges for content and drowned on camera? Oh my God.
No.
So I actually saw the video and I was going to put it up, but the guy died and I was like, we can't put that video up. But basically he was on, it looked like the Mhlanga Pier, I could be wrong. And he got his friend to film him, and it was like, I don't want to say at the shallow end, it was obviously a high tide, but when the waves just get too much. And I don't think he could sustain himself. And I know that's my biggest fear in the ocean is literally when you just can't get a grip when the tides are pulling you in. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what happened to him. And it's so sad, but it's also you got to be so careful.
And don't be jumping off of the pier and into the rough sea, even if you can swim, for Instagram likes or for social media. Please, let's not do stupid shit just to be famous on TikTok.
Yeah. No, it's not a thing. I did find a video of that shark, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to say. I haven't heard the audio, but this is what it looked like.
Yeah. Like, you see that fin, and I'm gone.
What kills me is all those people standing around it.
No, there are people swimming towards it. Are you? I mean, this is insane. Like, listen, I admire. Maybe they know something about conservation. Maybe they identified that it was a whale shark, and therefore that whale sharks, because they're not, as far as I can tell, aggressive or carnivorous, that you could go up to them. But still, guys, come on. It's the same as jumping off a pier. You're like, why take the chance? Just maybe you misidentified, and it turns out to be a really hungry great white.
And then people also get mad for sharks getting agitated and killing people, and it's like, but you guys
right. I mean, we have, and by the way, on that note, it's a good idea to promote the series that we did at the end of last year with Anthony Medera, who does Blind History with me. He's also a massive, you mentioned it already, Ryan. He's a massive shark. I suppose supporter, because he's one of the people who's trying to make people more aware of what sharks do, how they behave, what their reasons for doing things are. And if you want to know about sharks, then you need to listen to Shark Stories. He's got great guests who also know an enormous amount. And it's all on cliffcentral.com. It's brought to you by Shark Safe Barrier, which is something that Anthony is actually working on. It's his company. And some amazing insights into the way that sharks behave. So if you find them fascinating, like so many of us do, you need to listen to Shark Stories. Find it on cliffcentral.com. Oh boy.
No, sure.
My friend jumped from the cliff in Uvongo and broke his ball. It went inside. He broke his ball. His ball went inside him. Oh man.
Can you imagine the impact to cause that?
Yes. And then Carl
Ryan looks
reminding us.
uncomfortable.
Listen, we're all uncomfortable at that story.
Yeah.
Carl brings up something that came up on Friday morning's show, which I'm frankly still
Oh my
reeling from.
gosh.
Ben told us the story of this woman called Margaret somewhere in the 60s and 70s who like used to jerk off dolphins. And she had this one dolphin called Peter who she was very, very close to. Horrible story. It completely traumatized me over the weekend. It came up 4 or 5 times in conversation. So that story's still going, especially when you bring up the seals, Leigh-Ann. Carl says, if you really want to help that seal, you must jerk him off like Margaret would.
Jeez.
Wow.
Oh, Lordy.
Do you know how many
Sanella
seal
says,
videos
I'm with Sanella here. I see that shark, I'm out of the water and
Same.
swimming in swimming pools for the next few months before I consider a trip to the beach again. I'm with you, Sanella. That's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, look, I saw a shark while snorkeling. I think I was 23 years old, and I've never been back in the sea since. Never. I can't. And I was still accused, the person who took us out, we were looking for dolphins at the time. Once he got me back into the boat, after I'd literally walked on water and caused a young girl on the boat to cry uncontrollably and bruised my breasts from trying to get back into the boat. He said to me, there are no sharks here. And he showed me a picture of a fish and said, was it this? I was like, dude, I know what sharks look like. I was looking it in the eye. I was the furthest out in deep water, and I saw him in the eye. But yeah, even I'll never jump into the sea again.
You sometimes overreact to stuff. I know you.
I know.
So I wouldn't be surprised. Hey, listen, I think this is still such a fascinating subject. People are still remotely working. I mean, I'm doing it at the moment, but some jobs you can't do it. And yet there are still companies where the office is empty. People will not get back to the office. There is remote work allowed, even though most companies, I think, have decided that era is finished now. And I know that there are jobs that continue to be, done from home. I hear about this. In fact, I was on a call last week, Wednesday, and I was going to go into the office and then I forgot about it. So I was online for it, but I'm glad I was, because it turns out they have like a work from home day on that day.
Oh.
But everybody was at home. And if I'd gone to the office, I would have been sitting there on my own in an empty office. So I think this is still happening. But what are the two main reasons? I mean, you've got this research, which I think interests people because we're all talking about this stuff and it's still happening. What are the two big reasons that remote workers will not go back into the office?
Well, it's all come up because of a recent video by a very big company who have since taken the video down, where the CEO was basically demanding that everybody come back. He was like, This is the choice. You need to come back. It's an instruction. So coming off of that, there have been some surveys released. In a survey of 3,000 remote workers, 25% of people said that they wouldn't go back to the office even if their bosses did demand it. And the reasons, number one, is boring, and it's something that we know we would have expected, and that's flexibility and control of time. But what really surprised me was the number 2 reason. And it's number 2 for a reason, because it's bathrooms. 19% of those who said that they didn't want to go back into the office said while they worked at home, they had their own bathroom. They didn't want to share with co-workers anymore. And also a lot of people who work in government buildings and more public spaces, they're the ones specifically who don't want to go back because of bathrooms.
Hang on.
Yeah.
Hang on. They don't want to use their own. They don't want to use the public bathroom.
Or they don't want to share bathrooms at all with co-workers.
I agree with that.
That's a fair enough point.
I don't want anyone using my bathroom, but I suppose I have to share with everybody at work. Irritating as it is.
Yeah, so that's the second main reason. Other reasons include, well, number 3, about 11% of respondents, all women obviously, cited menstruation. They said they were just simply more comfortable with dealing with that at home, which I can completely agree with. Number 4, 9% said that they wanted to stay as remote workers because they enjoyed spending the day with their pets. And it's quite a thing to leave your pet at home.
Yeah, but then what are you doing? I mean, like Colonel Chris Wyatt, who we love on the show, he's quite right. He says here, productivity collapsed with remote working. I know there are people, the exceptions to the rule, who did more work. They were very effective. They get shit done. They work from home. They're incredibly disciplined about like work time and home time and being with kids and being with pets. And a lot of people just bug it around. And, oh, I need to go and fetch the kids. Can we do this on remote? I'm like, what did you do before COVID? You couldn't get away with that stuff then.
Yeah, 100%. And just through experience myself, my position that I have is hybrid. But this year we decided, let's start off Jan with a solid few weeks in the office together. And we were able to roll out work so quickly, just being together, eliminating that step of having to ask for something over email and just asking it over your shoulder. So much quicker. It really is. You can't deny it.
I'm with you.
I'm with you there.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Okay. Quickly, we've got to fit this in before we get to our last bit for the morning, which involves opportunities for young people to get work. We're all looking at that. We're talking about the already difficult situation so many young South Africans find themselves in with Charlotte now and Zonja just before the break. But we'll be talking to the guys at Ifundi, which is a company that is training people in futuristic and technologically enabled careers. Sounds good, because it is. And we need to think and focus very hard on what the opportunities are that are presented to young people going forward, because we've got this huge youth unemployment problem, which is actually something Zonja brought up too earlier this morning. But before we get to that, this is hugely important research. Study has shown how people can tune into how chickens are feeling based on their clucks alone. It's a clucking interesting subject. But I cannot, this just proves to me that universities are becoming completely irrelevant. Like, if this is the research they're doing, then we need to shut down the universities. Why do we care how chickens are feeling? Really?
Be careful, Gareth.
But I think I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. Is it perhaps only applicable if you're a chicken farmer and you need to know how they're feeling? I don't know.
Outrageous.
I mean, okay, so it has been proven that humans can pick up, no matter whether they've had experience with live chickens in their lives or not. We are innately able to pick up whether chickens are satisfied or whether they're upset about something, just from the differences in their clucks. But if you think about it, that's not really rocket science, because we know already if a cat hisses or if a dog growls, you don't need 4 legs to recognize those warnings. We know what it means. It means back off in danger. But so the universities that you may want to know who did this, it was a study in the Royal Society Open Science, and it involved Australia's University of Queensland, because it's
Australia.
Isn't that where all the chooks are anyway? But what I liked was that the co-author, his name is Jurg Henning, which I thought was quite
very good. Very good.
That's not very Australian.
No, it's not. But let's remember that Australia is also quite diverse. But apparently we wouldn't have to worry about understanding chickens if we had them as pets. Or as one backyard chicken expert says, she's the author of Under the Henfluence.
Oh
my God.
So keep them coming. She wasn't involved in the study, But she said it's really important because they're not facially expressive, because they have
Let me just
beaks.
ask you something. Okay, I could care less about how chickens are feeling. I mean, frankly, we just eat them or we take their eggs. I'm not that interested in chickens. They're one of the few animals you don't need to feel guilty about. They make us feel guilty about every other animal, and I'm not going to feel guilty about chickens. But I wonder if you're a journalist who writes these stories, if you get paid per pun. Like, you can hear under the Henfluence, and the author's name is Henning. There must have been a pun about that too. This clucking great thing, which I even made a stupid, corny comment at the start of it. Do you think they get paid per dumb pun?
I don't. They might. I mean, let's see what else they've got in here. They're definitely more than bird brains. Yeah. But
Bird brains. Oh my gosh.
That book name under the Henfluence and the Jurg Henning, those weren't puns. Those were just there for easy plucking.
Okay. Carl says happy chickens taste better than unhappy. All right, now here's some research I might care about. Unhappy chickens taste less decent than happy ones. The Woolies ones see a psychologist right before they get killed. Colonel Chris Wyatt, very active in the comments this morning. Nice to see you, Chris. He says, I was a farmer. They're wasting their time. Farmers know when things are awry. We don't need university grifters to tell us. Yeah. And then Sanele comes in for some criticism of Ryan. Because you said, oh, be careful when I said cancel universities. What was Gareth be careful about?
Animal activist, Gareth.
Sanele says, you mustn't be careful about these people. Question a study about chickens' feelings. That's the problem. Telling Gareth to be careful instead of telling the universities to stop fucking around. I did see someone make a comment earlier about how we've run out of new things to discover. It's Aperture Digital Media says, we don't have anything new to discover anymore. Well, when you're doing research on chickens' feelings, I think that's all the proof you need. That we've lost it.
There was another one of those never discovered before villages found in the Amazon last week.
Oh, yeah?
So that might make up for the stupid chicken research, okay?
Yeah, well, it is stupid. At least you admit that it's stupid chicken research.
It really is.
Unreal. All right, one or two quick news stories before we get to our last interview for the morning. Cyril Ramaphosa, we've discussed. He made a speech. In his speech, he said the unemployment rate in the country has increased to 31.9%, almost like he's bragging about the worst things. And then he said, the greatest thing is that 28 million South Africans get assistance from the ANC to deal with poverty. Now, it's not the ANC, it's from government. Okay? Be very clear about this. To deal with poverty, that is one of the great achievements of our government, to help people deal with poverty. 28 million. So we're a population of 61 million people, right? Somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that right? Okay, so
I have no idea. I haven't looked. 28 million. Guys, this is an enormous number of people. That's
60
that
million,
is no, but out of the 60 million, supposedly the government is having to help 28 million. So I'm just doing a quick calculation over here. That's like 46% of the people in South Africa who are dependent on grants. Half the population almost.
Yeah.
How's that sustainable? How are we going to manage that going forward? You talk about all the things we've discussed this morning. I mentioned the water project that I saw yesterday, which is absolutely incredible and does wonders for people's lives. But again, they've helped hundreds of villages across South Africa in a similar way. We can't help everybody because it's just not possible. It should be government's job. We talked about HIV, gender-based violence, teen pregnancy with Zonja. Again, massive problem. Again, public healthcare system can't help with all of these people. So private money is needed. Donations are needed. Corporate money is needed. So the private sector is coming to the rescue in both of those situations. And now we look at the fact that 28 million South Africans need government to help them because they just cannot stand on their own 2 feet. I mean, obviously there are circumstances where it's not their fault. But if 28 million out of 61 million people cannot get up and stand on their own 2 feet, then we've got a very big problem. And again, before we start worrying about blaming government for that, or blaming the economy, or blaming the world, or any of these things, let's look to ourselves. I could not imagine any scenario in my life where I would just give up. And I don't know how bad things must be for some of these people. If you're an able-bodied young South African who can buy, sell, you can, I don't know, whether it's offer people a service in terms of cutting their lawn, cleaning their house, fixing their roof. I mean, there are all kinds of things that you can do, even unskilled occupations that might not pay well. But if you are reliant on government, and you're one of 28 million people who are, first of all, the government shouldn't be boasting about that. I think that's a disgrace, and it's an indictment on our government that they consider it something worth bragging about, that we're helping 28 million people, that we haven't allowed these 28 million people or given them the tools to become self-sufficient. And second of all, what is wrong with 28 million South Africans, many of whom will be young, able-bodied, able to think for themselves, able to do basic things? What is wrong with those 28 million people that they can't find a place in the economy to matter? Right?
Yeah. I completely hear you and understand. You know, I always try to look at the other side as well. And I think it's when the jobs aren't there, they aren't there. Yeah. But there is something that you can always do. I was walking around a mall this weekend. But anyway, while I was waiting for my damn tires to be fitted.
Right.
And there are quite a few shops with help wanted and new shops opening and things like that. I saw quite a few opportunities just while walking around the mall. But
good news.
More than what I've seen before. Yeah,
and also I saw a thing on TikTok where Gates and McKenzie's been encouraging people to tell the foreigners to go leave. Like it's getting a bit out of hand. In Nelson Mandela Bay, the youth were going to these like foreign shops and were threatening them to leave the country because they're taking the work from them. They're like, you need to go back to the river you crossed or something. And it's like, oh my gosh.
I mean, here's an interesting comment made by Azalea. Do you know how hard it is to get people to work? I live in a mining town and we're desperate for workers. People get paid and they don't come back. Well, when you create a system, and again, I'm not saying that anyone should live in abject poverty, and there aren't necessarily millions of jobs available. But if people would prefer to sit at home on a 350 Rand social grant and exist in the most appalling, impoverished, just terrible circumstances, we've got to ask ourselves what kind of generation we're allowing to think this way about their own future. This is not a great way for people to consider the opportunities that are afforded to them, or the lack of opportunities afforded to them by being part of the economy, by actually making a contribution. Why would you rather just sit at home on 350 Rand a month? That is a terrible incentive. And if that's the incentive people are going for, we've got big problems. Ondela says, my brother does not want to work at all. He's very skilled and can do a lot. He is always just waiting for the 350 Rand to be released. This month, I want to send him 600 Rand so SASSA can stop the grant. Well, again, this is your brother. He's skilled. I mean, I think there's something we need to look at here. Maybe there's a psychological element to this that we have to get under the skin of. I can't believe anyone would be satisfied with 350 Rand. And then just sit at home for the month because they don't like working. That's just plain laziness, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, I read a headline where they were actually paying people who are dead as well. They were like,
they were
mispaying something like 10 million Rand.
Well, that was Lindiwe Zulu. That was a big story in the news, and it got a lot of attention because there's all this money that's supposedly going to SASA grants that isn't even being paid to those people. It's just being pocketed by the politicians. So
Sure.
I just want to move on from that as quickly as we can. All right, so let me put this to you as a thought, since we're talking about unemployment.
I put it to you.
I put it to you, because that's back in the lexicon now that Oscar's back on the street.
Yeah.
A training institution that specializes in futuristic and technologically enabled careers, helping young individuals to get their first set of skills and their first job, among other things. So for those people who do want to get involved, you'll find this interesting. I spoke to Kapina Chale and to Stefan Lauber, who are from a company called Ifundi. Take a listen to this. One of the biggest problems that we have in South Africa is that we have tremendous high levels of youth unemployment. And we've spoken about that ad infinitum on the show. I've spoken about it on the Burning Platform with Pumi. We're all very well aware of it, but nobody, it seems, is coming up with good solutions. I thought that until I found out about Ifundi, which is a training institution that delivers training for corporate and individual consumers. And as I read more, I found out these guys are particularly interested in helping people to upskill and to skill themselves in future careers. So we're not thinking about careers that are on their way out. We're thinking about careers that are on their way in. And the two people who are here to tell us about that are Stefan Lauber, who is the CEO of Ifundi. He is also a pioneer in skills development, and Kapina Chale, who is a marketing fundi. She is the Ifundi marketing manager. So it's very nice to have you both here on the show this morning. Thank you very much for coming.
Nice to meet you too, Gareth.
Good. And very nice to meet you, Stefan. You're the guy who founded it. You're the CEO and the founder.
Yes, correct.
Very good. And you actually are a doctor. Well, you have an MBA in medicine.
That's a bit of a mistake, to be frank. I studied medicine, but I got a master's in management eventually.
Well, I mean, you studied. All I'm saying is you studied. I'm not saying you're out here practicing medicine. But I think this is amazing because, I mean, it can show you many things about how careers can develop. And obviously, you've been thinking about how you could create opportunities here in South Africa. So let's just start off with how it all began, Ifundi, and maybe you can give us a bit of a backstory to why this came about and also why it's so necessary in this country.
I arrived in 1992 in South Africa, and I started in Orange Farm, setting up a center for community development there. And that was a reflection of my passion for development in general. Eventually, my career evolved, became a management consultant at Deloitte & Touche, and then started Ifundi. At that time, our founders asked for requests for proposals on new ideas around job creation. And that was just at the time when the CITAs launched the learnership. So Ifundi was probably one of the very first companies in South Africa to launch learnerships. We started in the call center industry, which we realized the barriers to entry on one side are low, yet call centers even today cry that they can't find good people. And despite our millions and millions of unemployed youth. So then we realized, how can we close that gap, train people, and then place them in call centers who need the work? Eventually, that worked very well, and we saw the opportunity to expand into other industries. So today we have over 30 qualifications, and as Kapina earlier on said, or you said it, I think, it's about futuristic, technologically enabled job. In 2017, I conducted through Ifundi consultation with 20 industries. So the banking, insurance, manufacturing, you name all of that. That was a precursor to the original Job Summit. And the question we ask people is, how do you create jobs? What are your challenges as employers, and how can we help you? How can we together create jobs? And when we consulted the banks and the insurance, they says, no, we're not going to create jobs. We're going to destroy jobs. And I said, you can't say that. And you know the problem we're having in South Africa. And the answer was always no. It's the fourth industrial revolution. That was the moment where I realized if there's going to be job destruction, then we need to prepare ourselves in general as companies, but also as individuals, to follow that transition, that transformation into the technological space. So that's where Ifundi changed gear, And since then, we have been working in that space.
I mean, it's interesting you mentioned job destruction, but essentially what is really going on is that people are just moving from one area to another. It's not as if those jobs are going to be completely destroyed. People need new skills in new areas.
Absolutely. For me personally, the great revelation of 2023 was ChatGPT, or as they call it, AI tools in general.
Right.
And in our company, at my day-to-day work, I use those tools every day. Does it mean I'm out of a job? No. Rather, I've become much more productive, much more innovative, much more creative. And so all our staff, especially people in the marketing department, they use these tools all the time. So we really have a choice as a business, as Ifundi, to embrace technology, or as an individual, as an employee, to go with it or get left behind. So the issue is, as you said, it's not about, in my personal opinion, it's not about job destruction.
Yeah.
It's about reskilling. And most importantly, I always say to my colleagues, it's about curiosity. The
Love that.
desire
That's
to
fantastic.
change, the desire to be a somebody, as a company, to be on the leading edge. I think that is, for me, the number one issue about the future. Do we want to move forward or just stay behind?
Kapina, can you tell us exactly what sorts of jobs? Because, you know, it sounds terrific and it makes sense. And a lot of this stuff is absolutely generally true. But when people hear about it, they go, well, what sort of jobs are you talking about? What sort of training are you talking about? And what kinds of opportunities will exist for people if they do this training with Ifundi?
Oh, okay. So we have a qualification called Accelerated Certificate in IT Digital Skills, and it will enable you to learn systems development within the first year. And then the next 6 months, you're doing a specialization. So you're going to do a specialization within 5 different mediums, which is cybersecurity, robotics, cloud computing, data analytics, and we also have a few more. So basically, you are able to enable yourself to get to know all these different types of qualifications and careers that you can jump into. These careers are futuristic and they are completely digitally enabled. So what we would encourage people out there is that whether you're already within a job or you are going into your first job, you should consider careers that are outside the normal scope and see what is out there in terms of where technology is moving the entire industry.
Now, what's interesting about what you guys do is that you also help to place people in jobs. It's not as if it all just ends once you've got a qualification. You've got a vast network of employers. So that, for many people, would be a far bigger pull factor than just getting a qualification. We have universities that are churning people out and they can't find jobs, right?
Yeah.
So that's interesting. You can earn while you learn, which will maximize the earning potential while you're acquiring that valuable experience. How do you get that right?
Okay, so first we had to look at what is the problem in the market, what is the challenge out there. So even though people are studying at big universities, doing traditional education, there is still a lot of unemployment. But then also, even though there's still a lot of graduates, employers are still saying that there's a skills shortage. So what is the problem in all of that? We have graduates, we have people who are looking, we have employers that are looking for
Who's not
people.
telling the truth?
Yes, who's not telling the truth, right? No, but the thing is, the industry is changing very rapidly. And just for instance, AI, it is attacking most industries. So the problem is that traditional education is not producing people that are employable. So what Ifundi does, we make sure that your people who are going to come into your organization are digitally enabled, they're ready to use their skills, and they're even able to fit into all the new processes that the company is now developing and coming up with. And because of AI and all sorts of technology that is coming up, companies are also changing their processes. So people who are already in the job market, they should also upskill so that they can keep up with the demand that is there in order to be digitally enabled.
So, Stefan, an interesting part of this, and you mentioned AI, you know, there are so many tools that are at our disposal now. and people can do your courses online. So you don't have to be at a campus. You don't have to stay somewhere. You don't have to be within driving or walking distance. That's very good. But you also will learn about AI technology and how you could put that to work in your own job going forward. And I think it's pretty interesting that you also will learn to master the skills that employers want. Because as Kapina's already said, there's this disconnect sometimes between the educational institutions and qualifications on one hand and what the market actually needs on the other.
I think the magic word that they have used in South Africa is work integrated learning. Or we can use old-fashioned English, it's called learning on the job.
Right.
Okay. What does that mean is we like to place you as soon as possible in a company
Right.
while you study with us. So there is a link between what you experience at work and what we teach in the classroom. So the two constantly talk to each other. Compared that to the traditional education when you go 3-4 years into university, and when you arrive, you don't even know how to open the door. Okay, so that has been at the heart of Ifundi for the last 20 years. Is that approach to work integrated learning, and I do believe, contrary to what many people say in the world, or especially in South Africa, I do believe that the Sita Sakwa system is world leading.
Okay. That's good to hear.
It is best practice. I think in Europe, where we have apprenticeships for hundreds of years, these type of approaches of learning and combining that with work is not new. But to take that integrated approach into the future, so in other words, in IT training, combining giving people work experience while you train them in the latest skills. That system is well entrenched in South Africa. We have our problems, we all know them.
Sure.
But I think the fundamental design, what they used to call, I think they still call it the National Qualifications Framework. I think it is very well set to help South Africa move in the future. And as Ifundi, we have confidence that we can bring that to the world, not just to South Africa, but to help people around the world to develop themselves.
I love it because what you're doing is solving not just a gap in the market, which is what businesses do. And you are a business. We'll talk in a moment about what because people immediately go, well, what is it going to cost me? And you have those numbers for us. But it's also a solution to a much bigger problem in South Africa, which is this huge crisis we have of youth unemployment. And there's nothing worse for someone than to feel like they don't have a purpose. And there are so many things that we can do in this country, and you're obviously showing the way. I believe you're in partnership with Capitec. Is that right?
Yes.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, very good. So they help students who can't afford their fees. But your fees are, and I don't think this is unreasonable, application fees 150 Rand?
Absolutely. So we are on a big mission to kind of combat the unemployment curve. So we make sure that our fees that are affordable, first of all. And then on top of that, if you're still struggling to pay the fees, we give you the opportunity to apply for a student loan with Capitec. So the beauty of this is that you get up to 7 years to pay back your student loan, which is almost unheard of. So all you have to do is apply with Ifundi. And then while you're busy with your application process, then we're going to transfer you to Capitec. And then once they know that you are now applying for Ifundi, and then you can come up with a payment agreement within that 7 years. So imagine you're able to fully study, and then finish, get a job, get your first entry-level job. And on top of that, you also get leeway on how to pay your fees.
Because let's be fair about this. I mean, the cost of studying for most people is prohibitive. And it's one of the reasons that we also have so many people who fall out because they can't afford to keep studying, right?
Exactly.
It's terrible. So also just to let people know, where can they go to get information here? Because there may be parents listening now, there may be friends, there may be the young people themselves who are looking for this opportunity. Where can we go to find out all the info and to figure out the way forward? What's the best?
Okay, so you can definitely go onto our website, which is www.ifundi.co.za. You can also contact us on WhatsApp. We are fully available, and you will see our number first thing when you go onto our website on all of our social media platforms. And speaking of our social media platforms, we are very active there and we respond immediately. So, and if you happen to see any of our paid media ads, just go ahead and fill in the lead form, and then a consultant will call you in less than 24 hours. So we make sure that we cater correctly for our students, and we make your application process very easy. It's a quick, easy application form which takes less than 2 minutes, and then once you have submitted it, then that is almost at the end of the road, because you have now started your